Hello, hello, hello to everybody. This is Dr. Soul Brother coming with some real stuff for you to um, to help remedy some of the ills that we have in our community and in our society. Hope everyone got a chance to hear my last show, which I believe was 2 weeks ago, and there'll be more to come. But first, I want to address some things that kind of trouble Dr. Soul Brother. Well, first, let me say, please hit the subscribe button and feel free to comment in the area. I'd love to read your comments, whether you pro, con, or whatnot. You're pro, fine. You're con, that's fine. That helps me to grow and learn as I go along. There's always room for improvement and all the rest of it. But anyway, let me get into what I'm talking about. Today's topic is Mr. Buster Rhymes, the rapper. And the question becomes, or rather, no, it's not a question, it's a statement. Buster Rhymes is a buster. Buster Rhymes is busted. And when I say busted, I don't mean in terms of money, not having any money. Buster Rhymes is a busted lie. First of all, um, a lot of people saw him at the what you call it, BET Awards that took place recently. And he gave a speech that was maybe 13 minutes and change. And during his speech, one of the things that he commented on was he said uh, somewhere along the lines, going to get it and not taking no for an answer is because of his Caribbean roots and his Jamaican household that he was raised in. First of all, that is problematic, and here's why. Um, Having a uh, going to get it and not taking no for an answer is not unique to Jamaica or any other Caribbean island. That's number one. Because in the first place, if that were the case, then how would you explain the United States? And how would you explain the United States irrespective of color? There are people, Americans in this country, who have a go get it and have had a go get it and not taking no for an answer position for a long time. Otherwise, you would not have what we know as the United States. That's number one. Number two, Mr. Buster, you up there exhibiting Caribbean chauvinism. Though you were born and raised here, your family from the Caribbean, you're exhibiting Caribbean chauvinism, and that's a problem. And you bring that to the table. In fact, you started bringing some of your Caribbean chauvinism, or your Caribbean chauvinism came to the fore in recent times. You've been on the scene, Buster, since the 1990s as a rapper. I remember you, Buster, but guess what? You weren't talking that island stuff back then. Why now? And but here's the other thing. Not only is Buster doing it, there are others who come from similar backgrounds who do that. We see things with Kid from Kid and Play, who's guilty of that. We see that with some other ones. I can't even think of their names right now because I get real irritated with this chauvinistic attitude. But I'm going to address this. Um, the fact, as again, the fact that you have a can do and go getter attitude is not unique to the Caribbean. Black Americans have persevered in the United States in spite of suffocating racism. You think about this, Buster, and others who might be listening. Here's the deal: black folks in this country, black Americans, that is, have had to go through holy hell, not just on the plantation, but post plantation days in terms of during the sharecropping days, during the well, let me back up. After slavery, you had what? Um, Black Reconstruction. There's a good book on it by um, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. who wrote his book Black Reconstruction, and I believe 1934, 1935, some of that about mid 30s. Well, you go through it, and that covers. In fact, you also do a Black Reconstruction in Roots: The Next Generation, which is the follow-up to Roots by Alex Haley. And you go into that history that went on for about a good 10, 12 years, I believe, until white folks decided to pull the plug on it. And during the Black Reconstruction, you had black folks who were becoming mayors, getting into politics, etc. And also, you had folks who were trying to learn to read because, as you know, or you may not know, because nowadays, you can't assume everybody knows everything. It was illegal to read on the plantation, and it was illegal to teach somebody to learn to read. Um, so you were punished for that. But here's the thing: post-slavery, you were trying to learn to read, and so all this was happening um, during Reconstruction. Then white folks pulled the plug on it because they didn't like the way black people were trying to advance. Then the other thing was this: you also had what? Um, uh, the black exodusters that took place. Now, if you look at the movie Buck and the Preacher with Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte, it deals with that part of our history where you had the black exodusters, and then what that meant was black folks who were leaving the South and were going to places like Kansas and other Midwestern states, and probably some other states that were in other parts of the country, but there was an black exodusters. What's significant about that, and how does this tie in with Mr. Buster? It ties in this way. And this is where I'm going to use a quote from a man who, may he rest in peace, who's similar to Buster Rhymes, born and raised in the United States, but had island roots. In fact, both his parents, similar to Buster Rhymes, were Jamaican. And he said this. He made the distinction between black folk in the Caribbean and black folk in the United States. He said black folks in the United States, I'm sorry, black folk in the Caribbean, pardon me, um, were dealing with absentee landlordism, and they were in the majority, populated society. Black folk were in the majority in the Caribbean, be they Anglophone or Francophone. So, in other words, black folk who were in the Caribbean, the Anglophone societies like Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad, Grenada, etc. And then, of course, the Francophone, Haiti, Guadeloupe, Martinique, so on and so forth. All those islands, they were in the majority. Whereas black folk in the United States were represented a black minority surrounded by a hostile white majority. And what I'm saying is this, Buster. No one understands this. See, when you stood up there and said what you said, that was another swipe at Black America. And guess what? You, Buster, your career is on the backs of black folks in this country, not the Caribbean. Okay? Now, you might have been sporting your dreadlocks back in the 90s. I remember that. In the early 2000s and all that kind of stuff, which, of course, you get out of the um, Rasta culture that comes out of Jamaica. But that was the extent of your Caribbeanness. Okay? Your rapping, that didn't come out of Jamaica. That came from here. Um, which brings me to something. Buster, a year or two ago, I think it might have been 2 years ago, you were on record as talking about saying that hip hop is Caribbean. No, it ain't. Hip hop is American, Black American. Um, just this past, what was it, 1st of July, early this month, they had a sign, street sign, that was unveiled to honor a man by the name of Disco King Mario. Now, a lot of people want to believe, including some Jamaicans, that DJ Kool Herc, who came to this country from Jamaica as a 12-year-old, is the father of hip hop. Well, we're here to say nothing could be further from the truth, bruh. Um, DJ Kool Herc, when he came here, first of all, he's a 12-year-old kid. He didn't come here with no turntables. He later acquired that, but he didn't come here with any turntables. And as far as him DJing music, the music that he was playing was James Brown and other funk stuff. Black American music is what he was playing. He was not playing Caribbean music because, in the first place, at that time, a lot of black folks in this country were not feeling Caribbean music. They weren't feeling reggae music. They weren't feeling Bob Marley. That came later on, but at that time in the 70s, no, sir. So to say that he is the king or the um, of you know he started hip hop is fundamentally false. Buster has been lying on Jamaicans creating hip hop. First of all, when you talk about hip hop, what is that? Hip hop is more than just rap music or rap style, rhyming and all that stuff. What also comes with hip hop? Graffiti, breakdancing. So what? So when you say that Jamaicans created hip hop, are you saying that Jamaicans created breakdancing? Jamaicans created graffiti? No, they didn't. That was started here, and that was started on the East Coast, out of the Bronx, New York. And Buster, you are a straight up lying fool to talk about uh, that stuff coming out of Jamaica. When look, I don't know how old your parents are, but here's the thing: if let's say your parents were born between 1940 and 1950, they would have to know something about this stuff. Because in the first place, um, the sound system that they had in Jamaica, Buster, a lot of them were playing American music. Have you not seen the documentary, the Studio One story, Buster, with a man named Coxone Dodd? Talk to your parents. Ask them, do they have any records from Studio One days on the Coxone label? You can hear some of that music and hear the influence of the United States. Buster. Here's the other thing. In the documentary, the Studio One story, Mr. Coxon Dodd, may he rest in peace. Rest in peace, pardon me. He spoke on camera about things that he got from the United States. And a man named King Stitt, who was a DJ, who would DJ for Mr. Coxon Dodd, may he rest in peace. And thank God that the people who put this documentary together a little over 20 years ago had the presence of mind to put this documentary together while these men were still in the land of the living. You should listen to them, which there's a part of me that believes that you are not ignorant to this stuff. You are purposely trying to deceive people. And I'm not just saying this about Mr. Buster Rhymes, but I'm saying this about others of that ilk who do that, who try to um, use falsehood, lie about this history to try to pump themselves up. But here's what I want to go to. Um, Rap music, the rap style, um, being in America goes way back at least the 1930s. Could be earlier, but at least the 1930s. We have the receipts, Buster, and some of these other busted busters walking around here talking that stuff. The Golden Gate Quartet, a black American gospel group who sang a cappella and were rhyming in the late 1930s. Now, again, this style of rhyming goes back to at least the 1930s, could be earlier. But the question I have to ask, since you're saying, Buster, that uh, uh, this is a Caribbean thing, Jamaican in particular, this is the question. The music, that style, is that something uh, that they got from Jamaica? You know they didn't. You know they didn't. And here's the thing. And people need to understand something. Because DJ Kool Herc, who was from Jamaica and was did play a role in hip hop, no question about that. No question about that. And we salute uh DJ Kool Herc for that. But this is my question. Well, actually, it's twofold. I'm pose two hypotheticals. Say Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, may she rest in peace. Let's say she was born in one of the Caribbean islands and came to the United States when she was 4 or 5 years of age. Grew up in the United States, uh, and later records soul music and becomes crowned the Queen of Soul. Or Aretha Franklin, born and raised in the United States, but her parents, her mother and father, were from the Caribbean. Again, uh, born and raised here, Caribbean parents, grew up and becomes a soul singer and is crowned the Queen of Soul. In either scenario, how does the Caribbean get the credit? The Caribbean, I don't care if you're talking about Barbados, Jamaica, Grenada, any other island. They wouldn't get the credit in either scenario. Why? Because that soulful style, that um, genre, or that soulful style of singing is unique. I repeat, unique to the Black American experience, and it goes all the way back to the slavery days. So it is organic to the United States. That is why the Caribbean or any other place outside of these United States could not get the credit in either scenario. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it, Mr. Buster. Here's the other thing. See, this really bothers me, you see, because when you stood up there on stage talking that stuff, when you got to the point about going to get it and not taking no for an answer, you related it to your Caribbean background and your Jamaican household, and the audience, who consisted mostly of Black Americans, were applauding. See, what you're looking at is the result of Black America um, being not only demoralized, but also developing an inferiority uh, um, complex in the sense that they somehow have been convinced. Well, that's not somehow. They've been convinced that they're somehow inferior to Caribbean and African people and Africans outside of these borders. That's the truth of the matter. Now, there's a very interesting article that was written May 2nd, 2022. And if you go to your web, that's EURWEB.com, there's a very interesting article that was written called Debunking the Lies of the Origins of Hip Hop. And you, Mr. Buster, are taken to task, as well as Pete Rock, who comes out of a similar background as you, and he too is telling bold faced lies. And this article debunks the lies and bullcrap regarding the origins of hip hop. These are stone cold facts. And so you have not had people like Greg Carr, um, like Roland Martin and others taking you to task in this regard. Well, guess what? Dr. Soul Brother is taking you to task, bro. I'm not gonna sit here and allow you to keep running your mouth. Because see, here's the thing. At that moment when you were talking that stuff, folks should have been given pushback, but they didn't, and that's because of the demoralization as well as a sense of inferiority complex. Well, actually, the two go together, truth be told. But here's the thing. Um, Next time you talk to your family, you ask them, you ask them about a man named Jeff Dixon, who later became known as Free Eye, a man who was unfortunately assassinated with reggae artist Peter Tosh in 1987. I raise his name, Jeff Dixon, for this reason. Jeff Dixon was a Jamaican disc jockey on the radio. And when you listen to him, it's clear who he was influenced by. Radio disc jockey. And then there was also a man named Winston the Whip Williams who just passed away uh July 9th, just the other day. He's another one. When you listen to him, you can hear that influence. Okay? Um So the thing is this, Buster, we're sick of you. We're sick of you and your bull crap that you're talking when you know better. Um, uh, you have been influenced by people like what they call the 5 percenters. See, what you're dealing with is that's that Nation of Islam influence who don't like Black America, truth be told, coupled with your Caribbean chauvinism that you bring to that's a toxic brew. And the day with the we're at this point, that day is done, bruh. We're sick of it and we're not gonna have this. No more. That's it. So we're putting you on notice to stand back and keep your mouth shut. Like I said, you are too arrogant, rude, and cocky. And this notion, this stupid notion, America uh, don't have no culture. Since when, bruh? Okay, America doesn't have a culture. What are you basing that on? Hmm? And if America doesn't have a culture, you can always leave. And it's funny, even though you were born and raised here, you got island roots. You can. Why don't you move to Jamaica? But see, you're not gonna do that because see, you have benefited from uh, uh, what Black America's culture. Black America's culture is what put you on the map, and you know it. That's your problem. You're dishonest, and we're not gonna have that. So that day is done putting you on notice. Tell you straight like that, straight like that. So, um, I want to say this. I'm gonna wrap this up, but I want to say this. Black America, we're at a point. It is high time for us to get it together. No more. There's no need to feel inferior to anyone. And when I say to anyone, I ain't just talking about white folks. I'm talking about black folks who, uh, you know, don't have roots here. Stop looking at them as being superior to you. Take great pride not just in your blackness, but take great pride in your ethnicity. It is your ethnicity. When you go through this article that was written, you will see what the writer was talking about in that piece. And what I'm saying, Dr. Soul Brother is saying is this. Um, this whole thing with people um, feeling as if they have to imitate. You are the most imitated and emulated throughout the world. Everybody imitates you in some form or fashion. Look at the Black Lives Matter. I'm not going to go into all the politics in this, but I'm making a point. It is not until Black Lives Matter come on the scene and during the aftermath of the George Floyd tragedy is when you started having folks tearing down Confederate statues and those kind of things. Why am I bringing this up? Why does that? What does that have to do with Busta Rhymes? It has to do with this. You notice black folks in other parts of the world, like in England, for example, they started tearing down their statues that were deemed as offensive, and statues that represented racist people in history. So they tore them down. They didn't start doing that until black folks in America started doing it. Black folks in other parts of the world didn't start talking about black power until black people in America started talking black power. And so before anybody wants to sit up and say, well, Stokely Carmichael pushed black power. Yeah, well, he got that from Willie Ricks, number one. But also, here's the thing. Even though um, Stokely Carmichael, who later became Kwame Ture, was chanting black power, the fact of the matter is his country that he was from originally, Trinidad, they didn't start doing that. And other parts of the Caribbean, like in Jamaica and other places, they didn't start doing that until Black America started doing that. Look at what happened with in there was a transportation. I think it might have been a some form of transportation. I can't think of right now in the UK in 1963. I think it was. They were upset because they weren't hiring black folk and by extension some brown folks, i.e., Indian, in in England as drivers. So they boycotted them. Well, guess what? That boycott, they took a page out of the Montgomery bus boycott that had taken place in 1955 to 1956 in Montgomery, Alabama. They took a page out of that book. Okay? That's a fact. So the truth of the matter, and talking about American don't have no culture. See, when he said this clown sits up there, you're a straight clown, Buster, a straight up clown. You gonna sit up there and say American don't have no culture when, as far as Black America goes, people didn't start sporting naturals and all that until Black America started sporting natural. That's when you start people like Walter Rodney out of Guyana sporting a natural. In fact, if you look at pictures of Bob Marley back in the day before he grew his dreadlock, he was sporting a natural. Was he not? We got receipts. We got photographic evidence that prove that in other parts. So, in fact, people weren't even using the term soul until Black America was using the term soul. Okay, so um, uh, Buster, the thing is this: you should consider yourself lucky because if there were enough Black Americans who had enough um, integrity, we'd have kicked you to the curb once you got to talking that stuff. Now, I don't say that to suggest that you don't have that everybody signing off on your madness. No, that's not the case. You do have some who were given pushback and who, frankly, who are PO'd over your rhetoric. But the thing is this: we're trying to get this thing going where it picks up momentum, and finally, you and others get it and say, you know what? I'm at the back off these folks. So in closing, Dr. Soul Brother is putting you on notice, as well as others of that ilk. No more days like those. You're not going to get up on an award show talking that madness. You're not going to be on social media talking that stuff. No, we're done with that. And so, when it comes to Black American culture and history, you, my man, need to put some respect on it when you know better. And again, if you are in doubt of something, you need to talk to your parents, bro. You need to talk to them straight up. And if they're honest, that's the key. If they're honest, they can tell you a thing or two. Don't sit up there and talk madness about and try to big up stuff. You got to ask the question: if a place is all of that, why are people leaving? That goes for any place. So you stick that in your pipe and you smoke that too. So my time is just about up here. Um, I want to say thank you for listening. I would encourage those of you who hear me, please make comments, pro, con, you like, didn't like, etc. Please hit the subscribe button. I need as many supporters as I possibly can. And I just want to say peace to everyone. Everyone be safe, keep cool, and God bless. And until the next time, God bless. This is Dr. Soul Brother signing off right now.